So, welcome to Facebook Live number 3 with photographing food. Today we are dealing with flash and we're going to shoot some cherries. So, how many of you when you see something like this, you just get completely intimidated? You're like, ooh, I don't know if I can handle that. Well, I want to help you take the fear out of this. So this is a small hot shoe battery powered flash. And Nikon makes them, Canon makes them. And in the last couple years, there have been third-party manufacturers, I think they're from China, that have started making them. And honestly, they're as good as the Canon ones, I found. And here's the beauty. So like the Canon Speedlight's a couple $100s. I want to say it's like maybe 500, 400, something like that. This thing right here, 60 bucks. And there's some that are even less than that. And all the gear that I'm going to show you here, if you go to photographingfood.com/live, I've got links to it, and I've also got it, if you go to photographingfood.com, under my resources section. If you click on the menu at the top, you can do it there. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, I'm going to have links in the description below where you can find the equipment that we're talking about. So what I've got here is I've got a Yanguno YN5603. And I'm going to show you how with this and then the wireless trigger, which is the RF603C2, you can take flash off camera and make it look like daylight. So let's get started here. The first thing that you're going to need, other than your flash, is you're going to need a way to modify your flash because you want to take it off camera. And throughout this little episode here, we're going to talk about several misconceptions that people have about flash. The first one being that it's too expensive and, I can't do it. Well, that's what the whole episode's going to cover, and I've already told you this is 60 bucks, not a couple hundred. So price is really no longer an inhibitor. With a modifier, trigger, and a flash, you can get into it for $150, which if you're really serious about taking your food photography to the next level and be able to shoot anywhere at any time, this is something you should highly consider. So let's go into the second kind of misconception people have. Okay, I have a flash, I have a camera, I need to put my flash on my camera. Now, this could work if you're doing like event photography and maybe you're pointing it up and like bouncing it off the ceiling, but for food, this is really one of the worst ideas you could have. Because let me tell you what we're trying to do here. We're trying to recreate natural light, right? So natural light comes out of a window. So we're still sticking to that window light idea where we're gonna have the flash at a direction coming on to our set. So, in case you don't believe me, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you fire flash directly onto your subject. So we'll just go ahead and plug it in here. And the way these things work is your flash sits in this little transceiver receiver thing. Well, it sits in when you're plugging it into your camera. But your flash talks to this thing, and this thing talks to your camera. And when you press the shutter on your camera, it tells the transceiver, hey, I'm ready to take a picture. So then it tells the flash, hey, we're taking a picture, and then it fires. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's the basic gist. So here we go. We're going to take a picture here. Okay, that's way overexposed. Let's go down. Now, I'm shooting in manual with flash, and I know that might intimidate you, but here's the thing. When you have your flash in a modifier, it's not moving. So unless you change your aperture, it's not going to change the exposure. So you can take picture after picture after picture, keeping the same exposure settings, and you don't need to change it all the time. So shooting a manual is really not that scary. Okay, let's take a look here and see what we've got. Just to show you that, photographing with flash directly on your camera is really the last option you want to take. Yeah, so, yikes, pretty bad. Not really great, we've got no direction going, it's really harsh. So if some of you have used flash and you end up with something like this, that's okay. I'm gonna show you how to get away from this. And if this is your perception of what flash is with food photography, then I want to break that misconception and really show you that flash is really awesome and it's something you should definitely consider using. So, we've talked about how we don't need to worry about the price of flash and it's something that is accessible, we can get into it, and now I've showed you why you do not want to have it on your camera. The next thing you're going to have to do is when you take off your camera, you're going to have to diffuse it. Because if you don't, it's going to look really bad. So My favorite way to do this is to use a really large lighting modifier. It's 47 inches and it's pretty big. You've probably seen it in a lot of shoots, but here's the thing. It all breaks down into something I can hold with one hand. So another reason I like flash is because it's super portable. So I used to shoot a lot in restaurants and I'd have to park kind of far away, or if it was in downtown Charlotte, I'd have to go in a parking deck and then go out, walk downtown with all my stuff. So I'd have my camera in my backpack. I'd have to bring lighting gear with me. And you know, this is not that bad to carry. Just can carry it in one hand, have a foam board reflector in the other, easy to go. So if you live in a small space or you don't really want your photography equipment overtaking your house or your space, for this, giving you an amazing lighting setup, this is not bad. So what we're gonna do is we've got to get our flash and we've got to mount it. And this is called a light stand. These come in a lot of different brands, a lot of different varieties. This is actually one from a tungsten lighting kit that I have. I like it because it's small and thin. And what I've got on top of here is a hot shoe mount. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our flash, like so. And flashes, they've got these kind of twists on the bottom so you can secure things down like this so they won't fall off. I'm going to turn the knob to raise up my light stand, like this. And I'm going to take the bottom of my hot shoe and I'm going to put it right in here into the mount, like that. And I'm going to tighten the screw and there we go. Now my flash can stand up, easy. So with our flash, remember, taking it off camera, we're going to treat it like a window. So over here is going to be my window. So I'm going to put my window right here. And you know what, you guys might not be able to see that completely, so let me just get this built and then we'll move it before we shoot. So I've got my flash standing up here, and now here's for the lighting modifier. Now you've probably heard of softboxes, which it's like a box that diffuses light really nicely. This is a softbox in the shape of an octagon, but what I like is it opens like an umbrella. So if you can see inside of here, it's got all this reflective material that I'm going to use to bounce the flash off of. And then it looks like an umbrella. I mean, a really big one. Now, granted, I would not go into the rain with this, but all I do is I grab it and I push it open like that till it locks. My modifier is open, ready to go. You can see it's really lightweight. I'm holding it with like a finger here. So what happens now is there is an opening in the bottom, you can see through here, that's going to go over your flash, and then your light stand's got a little hole right here where this rod is going to go through, and that's going to support the flash. Support the lighting modifier. And because this is so light, it's going to have no problem supporting it. So I'm going to take it over like this, over like that. And okay, so you notice here, if you can see, I'm trying to push it through. But on this one, I can't because it's only in one way. I've got this silver little metal clip. That means I can only insert it that way, and it kind of holds it in place. So I'm going to turn it around, and I'm just going to push it through like that. And then, so now you can see my flash is like this. Now, on this part right here, it's got Velcro. And you could use the flash just bouncing off of the back. Sorry, I'll turn this around. So take my flash here and turn around. You could use this to bounce the flash off the back like this, and this will give you some diffusion, but it will give you, a little harder highlights because we don't really have diffusion material in front of here, which is kind of spreading out the light and deflecting it a little bit. What I like to do is for that super soft natural light look is I'd like to take this diffusion material right here, and you can easily just Velcro it in place. And because these have 8 sides, it just lines up. You very quickly can just put it into place like this, like that, and there we go. And now I get this question a lot is when I show set shots with my light and you see this is completely lit up and bright, and I know it looks like a continuous light, but that's actually just the flash. When the flash fires in here, it's going to light up this entire surface, and this is going to become your light source. So you're taking that small little area of the flash and making it this giant area here. That's going to give you that nice soft light when you put it really close to your food. So we're ready to put this into position. So I like to leave it kind of halfway like this so I can turn on my flash. And we're gonna bring it right about here. And I'm just gonna take this off here to show you so you can see. On your flash, you hold down this button right here to turn on. When that's red, it's ready to go. You can press it and it'll fire a test shot. And I'm gonna adjust my power here to 1/8 to start off with. There are different power settings. If you go all the way up to 1/1, that's full power. And what could happen is that will drain your batteries a lot faster than if you go down to a lower power. So I'm gonna start, I usually like to start somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 power. I'm gonna put it back into stand here. And then I'm actually gonna lower it down a little bit because I want it kind of in line with the counter. Like that, put it there. And now we're gonna put this right here. Okay, so I've got it set up right there. And on top of my camera, you can see I've got the little transmitter. And this is gonna send a signal to my flash that it's ready to go. So let's just take a picture here and okay, you see how it fired when I was ready to take a picture? Okay, so now let's just take a little shot of the cherries here. And I want to show you our just setup shot. I'm going to shoot them, I think, on top of this wooden board. And then I'm kind of like in the brown look, the kind of darker natural brown. So I'm going to put this board on top of my counter to be my background. And kind of like there. And then I'm just going to couple these cherries and just kind of put them, kind of scatter them on the plate a little bit. Get a big handful. Something kind of like that. And then, find a cherry that you think looks the nicest to kind of be your hero cherry. I'm going to kind of set that where I want the focus of my picture to be. There, and I think this is going to be a macro shot I'm going to do. So I'm going to go in close. Put a little cherry action in the foreground. Okay, kind of like that. Okay, so I'm going to now take a shot, and I have absolutely no idea if my exposure is correct, so it might take me a couple shots to get it dialed in here. And I'm going to shoot my aperture, shutter speed, ISO. With flash, I always keep my shutter speed at 1/200th of a second because if you go beyond your sync speed, you start to see a shutter drag, and you could actually see your shutter in your shot. And let's see what this looks like. Not bad, we're very close. So I'm going to bump the ISO up. Okay, so let's take a look at what we just shot. Plug it in so you guys can take a look. Okay, you can see the cherries, you see how we've got some highlights, and you see like it's really dark on the cherries. That's because we need to bring in some fill. So this is the next problem that I see a lot of people have when using flash is you need to still fill in light like you would with natural light. Because remember, we're using this flash in the same way we would a window. We've got our light source coming in here. It's going to create a shadow on the opposite side. So if we want to bring in light and bounce this lovely flash back in, we need a reflector. And the easiest way to do that is with foam board. Now, last week we saw me taking the A-clamps with the metal brackets and putting the foam board up here. I'm quickly going to show you the easiest way to make a reflector. You need 2 pieces of foam board, have them be the same size. These are 11 by 14. You can just get them at the like Michael's or any kind of craft supply store. You're going to take them, put them next to each other, line them up, and you're going to take tape. And you're going to tape them together kind of like a book. So I'm going to take them, put them up like this. Put one piece, just go like that. And then we should take another piece. I'm going to take down the spine that. So here you go, and watch. Voila, when you open it up, you've got a reflector like that. So with this, you can fill it back in. Now I left a little bit of a gap, so what you can do is you can also put them closer together and get them, tape them a little closer. Like that. There we go. So now it stands, and the light that's going to come in here is going to fill and reflect back in. Okay, so we've got our camera, we've got a reflector up here. Let's take another shot and see how that looks. It's looking much better. Let me show you the difference here. I think we're still going to have to increase the exposure a little, but I definitely like the direction that's going, and you'll definitely be able to tell a difference with the fill. Before, after, before, after. Now I'm not on a tripod, so my positioning wasn't exactly the same, but I'm now just going to increase my exposure a little bit by changing my aperture and my shutter speed. And I'm going to do that to let in more light. All right, and we'll do one more. Okay. Now let's take one more look. So what do you think? Flash, not too scary, is it? Now, I know I'm going really fast with how do I change my exposure, because I'm talking about, I'm going to change my shutter speed and my aperture. And with flash, when you change your aperture, that's going to change the intensity of the light in your image because you're letting more light in. With your shutter speed, it's not going to do anything different. So here we can see our shot where I've got the cherry up, I've increased exposure a little bit with it. And I don't want to do any more macro. I think I'm switching to overhead lens, and I know it's a little confusing, maybe what I'm saying, but I've actually created issue 9 of Photographing Food that goes through this in a step-by-step way. It's going to give you a foolproof way to shoot with flash and get the exposure every time. I just don't have time on this episode to go into it, but in that issue I've taken shots breaking down every little adjustment of the shutter speed, of the aperture, of the ISO, and you can really see what it does to the exposure of your image. So now let's go with a wide angle shot. I'm going to switch to my 17 to 40 and take a wide angle shot. And that's a little too bright. I'm going to take down the exposure here. Now, you may be wondering, like, okay, so why was the exposure okay when I was macro, and why is it different when I'm wide? And that's because when I'm wide, I'm looking at a much larger area here than I am with the macro. And with the macro, I was looking at this cherry that's kind of right in front. It's got all these cherries behind it that are going to be blocking that light. As opposed to a wide shot, it's all the light's going to be coming in on this side. I'm going to take one more here. All right, I'm going to show you what we've got going on here. I'm going to show you that progression too, so you can see that I was getting it lighter and darker. Now, another question you may have about flash is, what white balance do I use? And that's a great question. With flash, they are balanced for daylight. So you'd want to use either 5200K or the daylight setting, or you can use auto white balance in your camera. Now, if you're shooting with, like, we've got tungsten light going on right here, and this is daylight, so you may be wondering, well, why am I not getting tungsten light going on? It's because my shutter speed is so fast that I'm not getting any ambient light from the room hitting on my exposure. And that's another great thing about flash, is if you're like in a restaurant and the lighting is just like weird colors and it's going to kind of mess up on your food, if you're shooting at like 1/200th of a second and the flash is controlling all the light on the set, then you won't get any contamination from that light around. All right, so let's take a look. Okay, so now you can see an overhead shot, and this was our final one we did, so let's go back before and see how much brighter that was. And that was with the same exposure that it was with the macro. And that's because, again, with the macro shot, we're focusing on this little area up front, and a different amount of light is hitting that area versus the wider shot. So that's something to keep in mind too, that when you do switch lenses with flash and you're focusing on different parts of the set, you're gonna have to adjust for that. All right guys, so let's review here. When we are dealing with flash, we've got a couple things that I want you to keep in mind and not be afraid of. First of all, it is within your budget. It is no longer hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get involved with flash. The flash itself, the wireless transceiver, this modifier, a light stand, and that bracket is probably gonna be around $150, somewhere around there, maybe $150, $160, and you might already own a light stand or a bracket, so that's one less thing you have to buy to get started in. This is about $40, this modifier. Again, if you go to photographingfood.com/live or on the YouTube, check out the links below. I've got links to where you can find all these items. So the whole money is not really the issue that it used to be, and also just the mentality of, you know, it's too complicated, I can't get involved with it. I just want you to throw that out of your mind and, you know, just take a chance with it. Now, I showed you why we do not want to put it on your camera. It does not look good, not the way to go. We want to take it like a window, put it off our camera. With that, we want to diffuse it, and that's where this nice, lovely modifier comes into handy. And with white balance, we want to be using the same white balance that we use for daylight. And really, and with shutter speed, we want to make sure that we keep around our sync speed. And the last thing is, with flash, with a little practice, you can really get it dialed in. And you can figure out how you're going to use it with how you shoot, and the kinds of props you use, and the size of sets you use, and the location you use. So with a little practice, I'm confident that anyone who wants to learn how to use flash is capable of doing so. So, well guys, I think that is it for episode 3 of Photographing Food Live. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe so you can get every new episode that comes. Leave a comment, share it with your friends. I hope you'd enjoyed this, and if you have any suggestions of what you would like to see in future episodes, just send me an email, taylor@photographingfood.com. And if you're interested in flash, but you're still not sure completely, okay, like I was going really fast during this and I covered a lot. Issue 9 of Photographing Food takes everything I've talked about it and breaks it down into small chunks that you can see everything that I'm doing, especially when it comes to the exposure part, because I know the exposure part, I went really quickly through that, but it'll break it down in a way that you will understand it. So thank you again, and I look forward to having you guys join me next week for Photographing Food Live.